What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the I'm Just Saying podcast. My name is Jack. Today, we've got all the chaos going down in Indy at the head coaching position. We've got a look back at week number 9, and I'll give you a Monday night preview. Here we go. Wonderful weekend. Because I know I did. Sat on the couch and watched football all day with the fellas. Couldn't have been better. Hope everybody did the same. But let's get right into it as we always do. I know I usually start with going through the last week's schedule. But this week, there's just too big of news that came out this morning. The Colts, after firing their offensive coordinator, have now fired their head coach, Frank Reich, and Mr. Irsay. Mr. Irsay walked in this morning. He picked up the phone, right? He picked up the phone. He said, probably told his secretary, "Hey, I need you to dial up. I need you to dial someone up for me. The sheriff, get him on the phone. Get him on the phone right now." Hey, it's Peyton. Peyton, I need you to come home. We need a new head football coach. Peyton said, "With all due respect, sir, I'm going to have to pass. But why don't you call Jeff?" Jim Irsay sat back in his chair. He probably went like, probably did one of these, like, I knew he was going to fucking, I knew he was going to say that. But then, you know what? Jeff is one of my guys. Let's give him a call. And that call turned out to be a fucking head coaching job. So now Jeff Saturday, your favorite ESPN anchor and analyst, not favorite, but you know what I mean, is going to be the newest head football coach of the Indianapolis Colts. I have no idea what the hell is going on there. No idea. This could be game changing for the Colts. I mean, they have had offensive line issues for the entire year. They have no quarterback. Matt Ryan's done. Sam Ehlinger is fucking terrible. But I mean, even if he was decent, we'll never know because the offensive line is giving up a sack every 2 seconds. And my question to the Indianapolis Colts is the same one that every single other person is asking right now. Who's going to call the plays? Who's going to call the plays? Jeff Saturday, from my knowledge, the only time that I've heard Jeff Saturday try to call a play, Peyton Manning chewed his ass out so fucking hard that he was like, I believe it was like Peyton, he was like, you need to do this, you need to do this. And Peyton went like, Jeff, you fucking block. I'll call the fucking plays. Or something like that. So, we'll see. I mean, they need a new OC. Someone will probably get promoted by the end of the week. They're going to have to bring someone in that maybe has any experience. And, if not, then they're just going to have to figure out who's going to do it and go with it because the Colts aren't going anywhere this season, that's for sure. But maybe they can be at least a frisky team that, like, looks like they're trying with Jeff Saturday. I don't really know what the goal is here. Is Jeff Saturday going to be the new head football coach of the Indianapolis Colts? Because he seems like too big of a personality. It seems weird to me that you bring him in for 8 weeks at the end of the season. You know he's going to suck. You know that the team is going to suck. So maybe he turns things around somewhat, but the team is going to be very bad. And that's okay. But that means that your long-term plan here is to get rid of Frank Reich, who's been coaching in the league now for years and years and years, and you go to a former player in Jeff fucking Saturday, who sits up there with Stephen A. Smith and spouts off the same bullshit to go back at him. I mean, whatever, dude. If it works, it works. I mean, more power to the guy. I mean, I will say I've always wondered why players don't get coaching jobs, or at least don't pursue it as much. Maybe they just wanted that break from the game, but it's definitely something that is going to be weird to get used to see him on the sideline in the uniform after seeing him spout bullshit on Get Up in the morning every fucking day. Because he's just a big beefy man with curly hair that talks well. And you know what? Maybe that translates into being a great head football coach, but we shall see. We can only wait. Time will tell. And his first game coming up this weekend is against the Las Vegas Raiders, who, like 2 weeks ago, he tweeted that they look terrible as an ESPN personality. So I don't know. I think the Raiders might get up for that game, and Devontae Adams might have something to say about those comments, but we'll have to wait and see. Forgot to mention it at the top of the show. Jersey of the day, TJ Watt, salute to service jersey from a couple years ago in honor of him potentially coming back this week. Not like it's going to matter. The Steelers are fucking god-awful, but that's besides the point. One of my favorites. Haven't gotten to wear it in a while. I thought it matched up with the camo hat. I don't know. Hopefully I look decent. I probably look terrible, but if you can see me, that's great. If you can't, that's fine too. And let's just go right into the games, because we had a lot of stinkers this week. We did a lot of random stuff. Not a whole lot of like marquee matchups, but there's still stuff for us to talk about. So let's go get right into it. All right. Let's start in Atlanta. The Chargers traveled across the country to play the Falcons, and this was just one of those snoozers. I mean, we were barely paying attention to this one. Really, it was like a Cordero Patterson fantasy game, Eckler fantasy game. Not a whole lot of action going on either way, and something must be up with the Chargers. I think it's time to sound the alarm if you're a Chargers fan. There's just, the injuries are piling up. There must be some inconsistency, and they just don't wow you. They just don't wow you like their roster did on paper. Now, like I said, they have so many injuries they're dealing with, so maybe you got to give them credit. Justin Herbert is still Justin Herbert, even though he hasn't looked as good this year. But like I said, with all the injuries, they had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams out, I think, this week. They just weren't the same team that they go into the season on paper. There's a lot of miscommunication, I'm sure, that comes up with that. But they're able to travel on the road, get the win. I don't know if they covered. I think it was -4, so I don't think they covered. But they played a Falcons team who's really surprising, and they are now tied, I believe, with the Bucs for the AFC South or NFC South lead. So they're still competing. Marcus Mariota's giving them a chance. They probably got a couple ways to go, and also Terrell is out for them. That's a huge injury on the back end of their defense because they have nobody in the secondary other than him. Absolutely fucking nobody. And you know, the Falcons are just one of those nameless teams in the NFL right now. Like, they need a lot of pieces. Arthur Smith is proving to be a good coach. They know how to get what they can out of the talent they have, but they still have a ways to go. And they're going to be rebuilding for a while. Arthur Smith is definitely a guy I like, and I think that he could take this team to a place where they can compete, but it's just going to be a couple years away. Not a whole lot going on here. I mean, Tyler Algier finally had a decent game, 99 yards if you played him in fantasy, but other than that, like I said, there's just not a whole lot going on. Chargers ended up winning it at the end with a field goal. Herbert, 30 for, I mean, why is he throwing the ball? That's what I don't understand. Why they must not be able to run the ball, because Justin Herbert is throwing it 43 times, 45 yards, and 1 touchdown. I'm sorry, everyone, I can't read. But Josh Palmer steps up in a spot. They look okay. They're doing okay with what they've got, but maybe, I'm sure there's probably some writing on the wall, starting with Mr. Staley over there, whose defense has not really played up to what the Rams' defense was under him. Now, they obviously had all those studs in LA, but the reason you brought him in was because you thought he was this defensive genius, and he's proving not to be that nearly as much. And they just haven't looked impressive. They haven't looked impressive against anybody. They played Denver on a Monday night game, I believe, and they barely beat them in that weird overtime game. Excuse me. They lose to the Chiefs. Obviously, it's the Chiefs, and they played it, they made it close at the end, but they didn't look impressive in that game. They're 5-3, somehow, but that's kind of like they're just that they'll probably make the playoffs if they can squeak into a wild card or something like that. But they're just skirting by unattended. Like I don't know what the Chargers like. Why can't the Chargers figure it together? Khalil Mack had a crazy like interception today or yesterday, but other than that, I don't even know what to say about the game. It's just weird. Let's go ahead and move on because it's that kind of a day. We need to keep it moving, and the Chargers are gonna charger for the rest of the season. I think Rashawn Slater being out is probably their biggest injury, and that's why that offense isn't clicking at what it should be. Because he's a fucking monster at left tackle. He's an absolute monster. But until they get those guys back, it's probably going to be more of the same for the Chargers going forward. And the Falcons, like I said, they just need more pieces. You go down to Miami. Miami makes all those moves at the deadline. They have all these players now, all this talent, and here they are in the same spot again. Since really the Bills game was like the last game that I can remember where they played a really talented team and took them down to the wire and then ended up winning it. This Dolphins team is now finding themselves again against a team, the Bears, who have been playing much better. Justin Fields, you got to give him credit, has been playing much better, but they're still the Bears. They're still 3-5 coming into the game. They're still not a very good football team. And if you're the Dolphins, who just went out and they got Bradley Chubb, who played his first game with the Dolphins, you pay him all that money. You obviously got Tyreek, you got Waddle. The offense seems unstoppable, and they put up 35 points. The problem is, they have now been very close to losing to the Bears, very close to losing to the Dolphins. Not the Dolphins lost to themselves. Yeah, I mean, the Lions. They were very close against the Steelers on Sunday night if it wasn't for a pick at the end of the game. I mean, they've just been, they've been, that offense has been there, but they can't stop anything. And maybe it's just they don't have those pieces on the back end. They've had a couple injuries as well. But I don't understand, Tua is taking the step. You're getting everything that you want if you're Miami. If you're a Miami fan, like I think I would still be optimistic, and I would take 6-3 at this point in the season. And a win is a win in the NFL. We all know that a win is tough to get in the NFL, regardless of who you're playing. But my thing with the Dolphins is if you are going out and you're being a buyer, you keep trading all these picks, which, on paper, it looks really good. Like they've brought in these guys, and those offensive guys have paid off so far. And it's still way too early to tell with Bradley Chubb. But they can't keep letting these teams who they should be beating handedly creep into these football games, because it's happening. It's happening. And come come January and February, they're not going to be able to keep up with some of the physicality of these other teams, is what it seems like to me. And maybe they will. And that's kind of what the NFL is going towards, more of a scoring league. I just don't think that it translates to playoff football to be letting teams like this back in, because when you get there, you're going to be, especially in the AFC, you're playing against Cincinnati, you're playing against Kansas City, you're playing against Tennessee. All these teams have really solid defenses, Buffalo, and everyone could score. It's not like you're just playing, like the Lions could score, but they can't stop anything unless it's fucking Aaron Rodgers, apparently. But they have to start separating themselves as one of these teams, because if they don't, then they're dead. They're dead. And there's no point in spending all this capital, colluding to try to get Tom Brady, all this bullshit. It doesn't matter. Because they've got to separate. They've got to start winning some games convincingly for me to buy in on the Miami Dolphins this year. I think Mike McDaniel's done a good job. Obviously, like I said, they could score, but they've just got to keep moving forward. Now, on the Bears side of things, Justin Fields, definitely the guy, right? I mean, he's the guy. He looks really good. 3 weeks in a row against some solid opponents. He's putting up good numbers. 15 carries, 178 yards. Now, he's not throwing the ball for a lot, but that's okay. They're using him like they should. They're doing more of the Lamar Jackson approach that we saw with Baltimore at the beginning of his career, where before he's just thrown out there to sling it 40 times. let him get comfortable, do the things that he likes to do best, which is use his feet. And that's what they did today. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns. If I'm remembering it correctly, I believe he had 4 touchdowns this weekend. 1 passing, 3 rushing, 3 passing, 1 rushing. So yeah. Either way, I mean, he looks so much more comfortable in the offense, so much better at managing everything. And you got to give Eberflus and that staff credit for switching and saying, you know what, we have this guy who's an all-time dynamic player, and we've got to give him help. We can't just ask him to do something he's not excelling at over and over and over and over again. And I think the Bears, they go out and get a Chase Claypool who didn't really do much in his first game with the team, but the Bears have a little momentum now going into the back half of the season. If they can get maybe 2 or 3 more wins, you start thinking of the Bears as, hey, got to watch out for the Bears, and they're trading away pieces and they're still getting better. So they've got draft capital. They're going to have the most cap space in the NFL by a long margin. I think they're going to have over $100 million in cap space or something crazy like that, or close to it. So we might need to start watching out for the Bears if Justin Fields keeps this up. Now, I don't know what their schedule is going down the back half, but Justin Fields, if he keeps developing this way, they don't have to take a top pick with a quarterback, so they won't have to trade up any picks. And let's see here, they just look good. They just will look good, and they have all the space and capital, and Chicago's a good city that people will want to play for. I mean, if you get the momentum going, watch out for the Bears next year to start rumbling back into the wild card, low bottom half of the playoffs conversation. And they've got the Lions, the Falcons, the Jets, the Packers. I mean, the Eagles, Bills, but Lions and Vikings to end the season. I mean, they could easily end up a couple of games below 500 or something around there and be just fine looking into the offseason with all their cap space and have some people going, hey, maybe I want to go play in Chicago. You never know. So good news for the Chicago Bears. And the Dolphins, again, they just got to prove it to me. They're one of my see it teams right now. I just don't see it with them. I have to see it with my 2 eyeballs, and I haven't fucking seen it. And until then, I can't say that I like it. I just can't do it. Anyway, then we have the shellacking of the weekend. We have the absolute shellacking of the weekend. The Bengals get the Panthers at home, and they put up 42 points on them. Joe Mixon dropped a fantasy 50 burger this week. A fantasy 50 burger this week. He had like 4 touchdowns. I think he had more yards. He had the Bengals had like more yards, or like triple the amount of yards as the Panthers did points. Like it. Well, I guess that doesn't make sense now that I'm thinking about it. That doesn't make sense at all. What was it? It was they had. Yeah, no, yeah. They had more points. They had more points than they had yards. That's what it is. I just fucked it up at backwards. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong. They had more points than they had yards, which is crazy. I mean, PJ Walker too. Going into this game, I'm thinking the Carolina Panthers. Now, I'm from Carolina, the Carolina area. I have a lot of Panthers fans. If you could see right here, I've got a keep pounding little flag thing they give out when you go to the games. I went a couple weeks ago. And they're an absolute dumpster fire. But PJ Walker had the team covering 2 weeks in a row. And I thought, hey, maybe, against the Jamar Chaseless Bengals team, maybe they can go in there and shock the world again and just cover the spread, which I think was 7. No. They look horrible. They went back to Baker Mayfield. They looked so bad at one point. And I think they got some garbage time scores. Yes, they did, to make it 42-21 your final. But they just look so bad. They need so many picks. I do have one thing to say to all the Panthers fans out there. I have one Panthers fan in particular that I posed this question to. I said, hey, you better pay Brian Burns all that money, right? Like you got to. And he goes, yeah, but I don't think the Panthers will do it. I think they're going to let him walk. And I'm sitting there going, buddy, I mean, He's like, that would be an all-time Panthers move to let Brian Burns walk like that. And I said, hey, if they do that, I'll come over there and give you a hug. I'll suck your dick if I have to, to make you feel better. Because, fucking that guy. I mean, if they lose Brian Burns for nothing after being offered 2 first-round picks for him at the deadline this year, the Panthers might as well just rescind themselves from the NFL and get the hell out of here while they still have a chance. Obviously, their quarterback problem has been the major issue. They haven't found a good quarterback since Cam. And even when Cam came back, he was still terrible. So that's been the issue in Carolina for a long time. And when Carolina traditionally has a decent quarterback, they get to the Super Bowl. They just need to figure that out, and all the other pieces will start falling into place. Ikwanwu, or whatever his name is, the giant dude from NC State, has been playing phenomenally. So they have some pieces. They have some young pieces. Even with trading away McCaffrey, they got to figure out the quarterback. And I'm not saying anything new. They got to figure it out. And don't let your star players like a Brian Burns walk, no matter how much you got to pay him. He's one of those guys. He still pops. Even in a loss like that, Brian Burns is out there making tackles and plays in the backfield every single game. And if they let him walk, I mean, I don't know what I would do. I would go out of my way, crawl, run through the snow and the rain to get to my friend and make sure he was okay if they let Brian Burns walk. All right. Next game on the docket, Packers and the Lions. Now, this is a horrible game. A lot of defense, a lot of turnovers. If you like that, that's fine. The Packers lose 3 carded off players in this game. Dobbs, Gary, and one more who I can't remember off the top of my head. But 3 players, I think they all 3 tore their ACL, or they're out for a significant long period of time. So there might be something sprinkled in the turf there in Detroit, but good for the Lions. They get a win against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, 15-9. And this game stunk. And my one takeaway is Aaron Rodgers may be bad. He may be bad, and he looks really bad. He had multiple red zone interceptions. Granted, one was on a tip, to Hawkinson, but there's just something not right. There's just something not right with Aaron Rodgers, and I don't know whether that's the lack of talent around them. I don't know if that's the offensive line. I don't know if them not running the football. Whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to say the issue is, something is not right with Aaron Rodgers. And it's funny because as a Steelers fan, going into the season, I was so excited for Aaron Rodgers to be on the market potentially. I said trade the moon and the sun to get Aaron Rodgers because he's that fucking good. And you know what? He still might be. But in the situation right now, he is horrible. He's absolutely horrendous. And I couldn't be happier that we didn't give anything up to get a guy like that, because he looks like he's dead in the water. He looks like he needs at least 3 or 4 more pumps of ayahuasca before he can even think straight. And he's wearing weird ass clothes and shit. When that starts happening, you don't trust the guy as much. When he starts getting weird with the hair and weird with the clothes, weird with the, I like him going on Pat McAfee. I think he does sound like a human. I don't hate Aaron Rodgers as a human. I just, out on the field, he's been horrible this year. And the Packers defense hasn't been phenomenal either. I don't really have much to say other than what is wrong with Aaron Rodgers. Someone figure it out. Also, why they don't run the ball surprises me. With A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, how good both of them are. Because every year we have the 1 or 2, like, the Aaron Jones, 4 touchdown, 200-yard game, and you're like, hey, give that guy the ball other than on a dump off on 3rd and 10. Give him the ball, because they run the hell out of it, and they just get away from it. Maybe LaFleur is approaching the hot seat territory. I mean, if you're a Green Bay fan, would you rather have LaFleur or Aaron Rodgers for the rest of his career? I don't know. I would probably say LaFleur at this point. Not just because of you're only getting a couple good more years of Aaron Rodgers anyway, 3 to 4 more good Aaron Rodgers years. So I would take the coach on hope, because you can find another good coach. You can't find another Aaron Rodgers. So, well, I guess that's a fucking horrible argument against myself now that I'm saying it. But you're only going to get so much Aaron Rodgers is what my point. You're only going to have so much more Aaron Rodgers to go around. You might as well take a shot on the coach because you could replace the coach. You can replace the coach. Replacing Aaron Rodgers is going to be its own issue on itself, but yeah, now that I think of it, that's stupid. That's horrible. That's a dumb argument. It's a dumb argument. I would still take Aaron Rodgers. I would still take him. You know, he's got to have something left in the tank. I mean, 3-6 for the Packers is just astounding. I don't understand. And you know what? This is the year that they're finally bad. They might miss the playoffs. I mean, if you look at their schedule coming up, the division is tight with Minnesota. They have the Cowboys next week, who are rolling. They have the Titans, who, even in a loss last night in Sunday Night Football, looked like they're a competent football team who knows what they're doing. And Tractor Cito is unhitching the wagons and letting it go. The Eagles, who are undefeated. The Rams, who probably by December will know whether or not they are the Rams or not. They didn't look good again this weekend, but you still got to believe that the Rams at least will be a competitive matchup. The Dolphins, who are fantastic. The Vikings, who are 7-1. And you finish with the Lions, but by that point, they're probably going to miss the playoffs. I mean, just if they go, let's say Cowboys, they lose, Titans, they win. So that's 1-1, 1-2 from the Eagles, 2-2 for the Bears. Let's say 3-2 for the Rams, then 3-3 for the Dolphins, and 3-4. Let's say they go 4-4. Yeah, 50% is basically what I would say if you go look down the schedule. They go 50 or 500 the rest of the year, then they're still sitting at 7-10, which is not gonna make the playoffs. I don't think. I don't know if it is. Unless it wins the division, which is it won't win the division because of the Vikings. It won't. Bad take. But they are definitely on. It might be over for them. Kind of watch. You got to watch out. They got to get hot, and they got to get hot fast. They got to get hot really fast because they've got a tough competition the way through. The Lions are hopeless. I mean, they won today. I don't know. I don't know what to say, but what do you want me to say? They're the Lions. Dan Campbell is awesome. He wants to go home and drink a beer and kick his feet up on the couch. I mean, that's fantastic. He acts like Peyton Manning winning the Super Bowl for beating Aaron Rodgers one time. Well, I guess that's twice now, but I mean, yeah, they're the Lions. I have nothing to say. We all know what the Lions are. We thought they were going to be good-ish for once, and they're still fucking horrible. Maybe they get to 4 or 5 wins this year. You never know. All right. Then we have the second shellacking of the week. The Colts, who we touched on earlier with all the change that's happening because of this game. They get throttled by the Patriots 26-3. And I take 0 away from this game. I think the Colts are horrendous. I think the Patriots are pretty good. But the Colts are so bad that you can't take anything from that. Ramondre Stevenson is obviously Ramondre Stevenson's a good player, and he kind of fits the Belichick system perfectly, where he's just a kind of not a huge name guy, running back who runs hard, he runs a physical, and they use him when they need to, and they lean on him. They don't ask their quarterback to do too much. This team is starting to look more and more like those teams of old, the Patriot teams of old, where it's kind of hard-nosed defense, run the football. Now, they still haven't been as good defensively as they have in the past, but like I said, there's just nothing to take away from this because the Colts are in such disarray. I mean, they have no idea what's going on. They have no idea what's going on. Bill Belichick, back to being a respected coach in the NFL. That's really my only take on the game. It's a 2-second take, but that's it. I can't take anything away. Then we move on to arguably the best game of the weekend, the Bills and the New York Jets. And the New York Jets, you know what, kids? They did it. The New York Jets did it. Clap it up for the New York Jets. Yay, yay, New York Jets. I mean, the New York Jets, the problem that I still have with the New York Jets is their quarterback. But you saw today, the quarterback plays well enough and the defense can hold it down. So now the takeaway from this game is the Jets defense is elite. It's very good. Sauce Gardner is unbelievable, who they didn't even have him on Diggs for most of the game, which I don't think he travels, which is odd to me because he definitely has the ability to. But I mean, he still takes away half the football field for you. I think I saw a stat before this week that he had let up like 26 yards in coverage the entire season for 8 weeks. I mean, that's insane, especially for a rookie. This kid's only going to get better and better and better pending an injury. Quentin Williams is finally starting to live up to some of that hype up the middle. They got CJ Mosley back. You know, they just have some dudes on the defensive side of the football, and Robert Saleh knows what he's doing, coaching that unit like he did in San Francisco. And you just got to respect them. You got to give it to the Jets. They played a hell of a game. They had a good game plan. They bottlenecked Josh Allen, who didn't have his best game for sure, but they got pressure in his face. They figured out how to neutralize that offense at least enough, force some field goals when they had to, and they sneak out of there with a late game win. And you got to hand it to them. Now, offensively, they only scored 20 points. Okay. That's not going to cut it at some point when you go against these NFC teams. Like if they have to play the Bills again in the playoffs, the Bills are going to score more than 17. They're just going to, especially with tape on the team. And Zach Wilson, who I call Alvin the Chipmunk because he just looks like a child. His face looks like Alvin the Chipmunk. I mean, if you do a side-by-side, I might try to do it up on the screen here. They look exactly the same. Exactly the same. It's hilarious. But I want to choose my words carefully here. He is not bad, but he's also not good. Yet. Like, Garrett Wilson is proving to be really good, really athletic, a fantastic weapon on the outside. He had a great game this weekend. Sat him in fantasy again. Don't take my fantasy advice. Take it, watch the show, like, enjoy it. If you do the opposite of what I tell you to do, I guarantee you will win money / win your fantasy league, have bragging rights, all that shit. Because I've been so fucking wrong this year. It's been unbelievable in that kind of a sense. But the Jets, for me, will go as far as Zach Wilson can take them. They will go as far as Zach Wilson can take them because that defense is so good. But Zach Wilson needs to figure out how to have a 200 to 300 yard passing game because when he has those 200 to 300 passing yard games, he also has like 4 of the worst interceptions you've ever seen in your life mixed into it. And that is just not going to win you enough football games. It's just not going to. So while the Jets finally get one of their big wins, and I'm happy for the Jets in that sense, this is not a game that tells me the Jets are ready to go to the playoffs and win a bunch of games. I think at this point, there's a good chance they could make it. There really is a good chance they can make it. Now, there's 3 teams in that division that are going to be right there on the line, and one of them is going to win the division title. But I think we have to have the conversation now is maybe the Jets are a playoff team. And that will only happen if Zach Wilson can take them there. Because they can run the football, they can play defense, they can control the clock. But Zach Wilson, when he has the horrible game, lets them down dramatically. And it's just the facts so far this season. It's just the facts. I don't know what to tell you other than that Zach Wilson is going to make or break the Jets season. I think if you're a Jets fan, you know that. And it's scary because of all the talent that Zach Wilson has. To me, as an outsider, I'm like, where is it? Where is it? We saw coming into the draft, especially all those like off-platform throws, all the like leaning back across his body, like 70-yard bomb or whatever like that, improvisation, all of that thing. But on the field recently, when he does that, when he has like Wilson drops back, he moves, he evades a tackler, pump fake, going outside. Oh, it's just like floated right to a defense, like an interception that I could have made. So while I appreciate and I respect and I'm happy for Jets fans that they have something to cheer for, they just it's the Zach Wilson conundrum in New York. It really is. Moving on to the Vikings, or the Fraud Kings, as some people like to call them. I had them in the fraud category last week for sure. This week, it's still a close win over a middling team in the Commanders with the backup quarterback. However, Kirk played a good game. He's on. Everyone saw it. He's on the plane afterwards, looking shredded as shit. Calvin Kirk, looking like Calvin fucking Klein, with all the chains on, having a good time, and he still looks like a stooge. But the players like him, so as long as they keep winning, we just need to see it in the playoffs and in primetime from Kirk. And that's been the story of Kirk. And he has Justin Jefferson, who's unbelievable. You add Hawkinson, he had 9 catches or 9 targets this weekend, I believe. And he'll get better in the offense as time goes on. But there's something about him. There's something about the Vikings. They just keep winning these close games. They're not overly impressive in any of them. They look like a solid football team, but are you really scared if you're... Let's say that they're the 2 seed in the NFC. Let's just say that they win out and they have 3 or 4 losses, maybe not even, and they're the 2 seed in the NFC behind the Eagles, let's say. If you are the 5 or 7 seed going to Minnesota to play the Vikings, are you scared? I don't think so. I don't think you are. And I think everyone knows that. So until we see it from Kirk late in the season, as well, just kind of like I said with Zach Wilson, I need to wait and see. I need to wait and see it. Honestly, we just need one good primetime performance and win from the Vikings, and I will be okay, this team is good. Because they are good. They're definitely I guess they're fine. They're a good football team, especially on paper. You bring in Zadarius Smith, he's been playing really well. The problem, it's Kirk. It's Kirk. It's always been Kirk. There's a lot of money in Kirk. I like Kirk. I hope Kirk does well, especially because I have no dog in the race anymore because the Steelers are horrible. But I would be okay with seeing Kirk if the Vikings won, that would at least be something pretty cool to see. Good for Kirk Cousins. I would be okay with that. It's just I don't know if he's going to take him there. And then the Commanders, all the shit that's coming out with Dan Snyder about how his money is just totally the way the fraudulent behavior with his finances and the team. He's basically, it seems like he's kind of trying to sell it off before it gets bad, or sell off partial ownership but still be the majority owner. That whole situation is just kind of weighing them down, and give them credit for fighting through that and being a competitive football team, at least to certain teams in the NFC. But we all know the Commanders are just the Commanders. They're probably not going to the playoffs. They're not kind of that wow team, especially without Chase Young. So we will see how they do going on. But I'm not expecting much out of the Washington Commanders. I'm just not. All right. Moving on. We still got one more early slate game. The Raiders and the Jaguars. And my take about Derek Carr is aging like fine wine. At least this week, Derek Carr realized that Devontae Adams is unfucking believable. He's so good. And he gave him the ball, and there was one play, the one deep kind of post route that he ran where he basically just stops, then runs straight. He kind of slows down, almost to a complete stop, runs his route, and then beats the safety so badly. I mean, he just flops around like it was almost like a gimme, like he did it on purpose, and he's wide the fuck open. I mean, Derek Carr, yes, you should be hitting that. And it was a good route and all that. But the fact that they still lost this game to the Jaguars, who just have not been impressive either, Derek Carr fucking sucks. I don't care. I don't care. I'm saying it. He had 259 and 2 scores today. I don't care. Derek Carr sucks. He's like Dabo Sweeney. He's a scumbag. He wants to do it all himself, even though he tells you he doesn't, and I won't hear it from anybody else. Devontae Adams is probably shitting himself because he knows he has to play with this guy for multiple more years. Now they're both signed, and I would be too. I would honestly be asking for another trade out of Las Vegas, pulling in Antonio Brown, but not going crazy mentally, because they are horrible. Their defense is not good. They have a little bit of push up front with Max Crosby and with Chandler Jones, but that's about it. There's nobody that scares you. They have a lot of older defenders in their secondary, and I just think the Raiders are one of those teams that there was some high expectations for because you thought maybe some of these guys that come in can overachieve, and Devontae Adams, we've seen it from him for years with Aaron Rodgers. However, this season it just hasn't all lined up for the Raiders, and maybe next year they can turn it around, but it just really hasn't lined up for them. Anyway, let's move on to the afternoon slate. 2 games in the afternoon. I don't know why the NFL does the scheduling like this. Why? Like, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in the early window, only 2 in the afternoon window. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It really doesn't. But so it was. That is what the schedule says. Let's get into those games. Starting with the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Now, the Seahawks, I think, may be my favorite team going forward to start betting on to overachieve because they keep doing it, and they were dogs in the spot against the Cardinals, who the second week back with D-Hop, Call of Duty's still out. The Cardinals are cardinaling harder than they've ever cardinaled before, and I think Cliff Kingsbury is his buns are getting a little toasty. His buns are getting a little toasty because they look not very good, and they don't look very good at all. The Seahawks, on the other hand, continue to overachieve. Geno Smith, 26 for 34, 275, 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, 26 carries, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. Huge in fantasy for me this week. Literally him and Cooper Kupp, the only reason that I am still even alive a little bit. So shout out to them for that. But what I'm saying is this Seahawks team is overachieving to the max. Now, do I think it might translate into a playoff win? But if they end up if you're the Seahawks, like I was saying with the Vikings earlier, if you're the Seahawks going into Minnesota to play a playoff game, I think you feel pretty good. Like, I think you feel very good about your matchup. They're playing very well. They're super efficient. They don't turn the ball over. They cause turnovers. The defense is wreaking havoc. Sauce Gardner's buddy, Kobe Bryant, is playing his ass off out there as well. A lot of rookies are stepping up for them, and I think from going on, it may start to slide for sure. But the Seahawks are 6-3. They have control of the division. And they look really good. Now, I don't know if they're as good at the 49ers. I bet you the 49ers will pick it up. I think the 49ers will pick it up and start to kind of compete with them for that division as the season gets down to it. However, you have to take them seriously. And Geno Smith is having the year of his career. I don't know if this is a one-year wonder. I don't know what it is. Blah, 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 blah. But he's looking very good. DK Metcalf playing a little bit hurt, but he's still playing very well. He had a touchdown catch today. Tyler Lockett, still one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. And especially when they play in Seattle, which they didn't today, but especially when they play in Seattle, they have the 12th man, and it's a good environment. It's a hard place to play. It's a shitty atmosphere, like a shitty weather place. It gets loud as hell, and you've got to take the Seahawks. You've got to take the Seahawks seriously. You have to. Now, there's going to be some betting spots, I'm sure, where they're a home favorite by a decent, if they're a home favorite, when they start getting to, 5 or 6 points in that spot, depending on the team, we could start talking betting wise, but I still think they're going to win a lot of those close games. Like, you may not want to take the points, but they're going to win a lot of these close games in a season like this, the way that they're playing. Pete Carroll has the boys rallied up, and we've talked about it before. They are murdering Russell Wilson. They are murdering him mentally right now. Team 3 must be shitting themselves with how good the Seahawks are playing this year, especially with Geno goddamn Smith going from Russell Wilson, who we all thought is a generational talent, and is just putting up numbers that he might, if he even plays like slightly better, you might want to take a flyer on him and sort of in the MVP conversation. He probably won't win it, and Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, your top 3 right now definitely deserve to be over him. But he is playing his ass off, and he is definitely the reason why they're winning a lot of games, because if he plays like Geno Smith of old, the Geno Smith that we all know, he's just not going to take them anywhere. He's just not going to, because we've seen what he does. He's an interception-prone guy. He doesn't make a lot of people miss. He's not overly athletic, especially anymore. Now he's being efficient. He's getting the ball out quickly. He doesn't turn the ball over. I couldn't give more respect to Geno Smith. And you know what, buddy? You don't have to write back, because you're playing your ass off. You really are. Even though I think that's the cheesiest fucking line I've ever heard in my life, you don't have to write back. It's fine. It's fine. Good for you. Good for you in the Seahawks. Good for you. Also, Kenneth Walker, I love your guts. I love your guts. I might get a Kenneth Walker jersey because I love him in fantasy so goddamn much. He is unbelievable. He is unbelievable. He's so explosive. He hits his holes, and he scores on the goal line. So you might want to start looking at Kenneth Walker for Offensive Rookie of the Year as well. Second and final game of the afternoon slate. This game was kind of a snoozer for most of it, but it came down to the end. And you know who, with 2 minutes left, less than 2 minutes left, I think there was about 40 seconds total time would they get the ball back at the end of the game. Thomas Brady leads the Buccaneers to a win against the Rams in a game that if you circled it on the schedule before this year, everyone goes, oh, get up for this game, get up for this game. Both teams kind of suck, and they needed this win bad. Here come the Bucs. And Tom Brady was pumped up afterwards, saying it's fucking awesome. And he deserves to, because he had a vintage Brady moment. And the Rams kind of gave it to him. They let him have the deep outside routes all the way down the field. But they got into the end zone. They go all the way down. Tom Brady does it again, and you can't say much more than that. I mean, the Bucs still look not the best. Like, other than that last drive, there was a lot of Mike Evans drops, which is surprising because he's one of the best receivers in the NFL usually. There's a lot of miscommunication. There's a lot of offensive line, not being what it was, obviously, with all the injuries, but the communication issues between them is causing a lot of problems. Their pass rush is still coming through. They blitz a lot, and they blitz well with Todd Bowles, so I think that helps them for sure, especially down the stretch. However, they're going to have to fix some of these defensive inconsistencies, or it's still going to be a long year for the Bucs. But I like them, especially with some momentum in their corner, to start turning the corner on this season. And a single emotionally available Tom Brady is a scary, scary, scary sight. Just scary. So we'll see what happens there. One final game on the docket from the past weekend, Sunday night football game, the Titans and the Chiefs, and the Titans just absolutely stunned them for about 40 to 45 minutes of this game, probably maybe 55 minutes of this game. But the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes made 2 or 3 of his plays where you just go, that's not possible afterwards. I tweeted it out last night. He looks like, he does that thing where you like you do in Madden, where you just run straight back to throw it away, like every time. He also just he'll just be tackled and then all of a sudden be not tackled. And then the Tennessee Titans just did not want to spy him. They just didn't spy him the whole night. He scampered around like he was a freaking gazelle. I mean, the guy Deion Sanders didn't hold the ball held the ball with less security than Patrick Mahomes did. He still didn't fumble. He had a rushing touchdown or 2. He just played the game of the season, that Patrick Mahomes finish, even with a lot of inconsistency in the front half of that game. that was vintage Patrick Mahomes, which is funny to say that. He's only been in the league for like 6 years, 5 or 6, probably not even that, 5 years. But the Chiefs, when he's playing like that, are tough to beat. And even though you got to hand it to the Titans, I thought the Titans would get rolled in this spot. I thought they were going to get steamrolled, but Tractor Cito is still Tractor Cito. He's unhooking the freaking trailer. He's running down the field, and with Malik Willis, they're just not there yet. He's not there yet offensively, and they have. I mean, the AJ Brown trade is just like they said that. I tweeted it out last night. Their white wide receiver, who I can't remember the name of. I mean, he looks like freaking Liver King if you stretched him out. They said that this guy is better than AJ Brown. Like, having these guys are better than AJ Brown, which is just ridiculous. Robert Woods, who I thought would be a good addition for them, has really done absolutely nothing. The Titans, they impressed, and they finally had that good. They were able to run the ball, so you got to hand it to them on that account. But Tennessee is one of those teams that's just the coaching overcomes the talent, not the talent overcomes the coaching, if that makes sense. The coaching, Vrabel will always have them ready to go. Jeffrey Simmons, I mean, they have 2 or 3 monsters. Jeffrey Simmons is really good. They have a good secondary with some young players mixed in there with McCreary and the other corner, Bolton, I believe. So they definitely can play, and they'll show up, and they'll probably, they'll be right on the mix of a playoff team as well. But without Ryan Tannehill, who kind of knows what he's doing in the system at least, Cody fucking Hollister is the guy's name. I mean, Cody Hollister looks like the guy that is in the Hollister store at the mall who has no shirt and is like trying to spray shit on you as you walk in. Like that is what he looks like. It's just, they have some weaknesses, and they're so well coached that they'll overcome it against some weak opponents, especially in the AFC South, which just stinks. They'll roll their way through that division, but they're probably a couple years away or a year away from really being a contender again. For like a championship and for multiple playoff wins this year. The Chiefs, Tony got involved. Juju looks great, but Juju Smith-Schuster ran one route the entire game. Like, he literally ran the stick route, and that's it. Like, he just did like a 2-yard stick. And Tony looked good. Tony, I think, if there's one player on the Chiefs that is going to separate himself with more time in that offense, Kadarius Toney has potential to be Tyreek Hill. Like, he really could be Tyreek Hill in that offense 100% if they set him up right. Once he gets more reps, more time with Patrick Mahomes, and they build more of a connection. But until then, they're going to do a lot of little stabbings, a lot of little daggers all the way down the field. Patrick Mahomes threw it like 68 times. Yeah, 43 of 68. I mean, Lord have mercy. They can't run the ball at all, which is definitely going to come back to haunt them at the end of this year. But sorry, my headphones got a little whoop for no reason. It's kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, only one touchdown, which is hilarious, but I mean, he rushed in as well. So, Kelsey, again, there was a guy, I think, who had a Kelsey touchdown away from turning $70 into like $14K. That's got to hurt. That Kelsey, again, doesn't get in the end zone, but has another over 100-yard game. 10 catches, 100 yards for him. So a big fantasy night, but not a touchdown. They're the Chiefs. They'll be there at the end. That we all know they will, and we'll see. With the pass rush has been very good for them as well. Chris Jones and Dunlap have really started to heat it up. They get their linebackers and Gay and Bolton back, and very active, aggressive, physical linebackers. The team looks good. It looks good. They're going to be hard to beat. They're going to be a hard knockout, 100%. But that is all the games except for the Thursday night game, which I kind of went over on TikTok and stuff. I believe I gave out the Eagles to steamroll the Texans, and they didn't. They actually played. The Texans came to play and competed. They covered the spread. So again, if I give you a pick, do the opposite. Last week on Monday night, I gave you Bengals -3.5. I thought they were going to roll, and they got dusted. So just don't. I mean, if you fade me, you will make money. You will make money. You will have bragging rights with your friends. Whatever it is that you do, if you go against what I tell you to do, you will do well. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a genius, right? I'm not trying to tell you that I know everything, but I will help America. I will continue to help you, America. I will do what I can to make sure that you have money in your pocket. I will be poor, but as long as you have money in your pocket, that's okay with me. It's just okay with me, and that's how it's going to be. Anyway, the only other thing I have to add this week is a little bit of a Monday Night Football preview. We have the Ravens traveling to New Orleans to play the Saints. The Saints have kind of been heating up the last couple of weeks. Not that I'm really nervous about this from the Saints' perspective. I don't think they can win this game against the Ravens, and that's why I am going to give you... let's check the odds. Sorry if there's some keyboard clicks here, fellas. I don't know if... I want to say the line, if I would guess the line, I would say 4.5 or 5. I think the Ravens get 4.5 or 5 here. Let's see it. So, and it's it's 2. That is weird. I don't like that at all. 2 Saints plus 107 at home on the money line, over under 46. Kamara has been hot. He's been playing very well. He's been carrying the offense, and Olave is starting to emerge as a good wide receiver who, personally, coming out of this draft, I thought Olave by far was the best receiver. Now, I don't know shit, but just consistency at Ohio State, he seemed like he was always open, and he's got great hands, he's quick, he has great route running. He was definitely at least the most NFL ready wide receiver to me, and he's starting to show up. I just saw 500 yards on the season for him so far, and 37 catches, only 2 touchdowns, but he's still young, and also he's been dealing with the carousel of Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, which I believe Andy Dalton is still playing tonight. And with that being said, I hate it, but give me the Ravens -2. They got to win this game. They have to win this game. There's no way they fuck this up again. There's no way they do this. Give me the Ravens. Give me Lamar in the Dome in New Orleans. Have a big night. Ravens -2. Ravens -2. Ravens -2. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast this week. It's not much, but it's something. Thank you for tuning in. Follow me on Instagram at ImJustSayinPod, ImJustSayin.pod. I'll have all this linked below, so you can just click it and go right there. TikTok, ImJustSayinPod. Obviously here on YouTube at the I'm Just Saying Podcast. Hit subscribe, turn on the notification bells, check out any of my other content. I really appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their week. Until Thursday and or Monday next week for the pod, I will see you guys.